Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here, and with Juan Gotti talking sports. Make sure you guys check him out for another Washington football team weekly stream. And today is going to be kind of a mid-season, stream. We're just going to be talking about the Washington football team, at pretty much the mid-season mark, how we think they've played so far, and kind of the main topic of this stream is going to be. Do you think the Washington football team should tank, or do you think they should continue to compete and try to finish off the year strong? So that's what we're going to be talking about. How you doing, Juan?
I'm doing good, man. As always, it's a blessing to be on here. It's always fun to be on here. I'm trying to get the trio back, but my man Rio is out there, doing adult things. So take your time, man. Ain't no rush, man. We always gonna be here, so handle that. You know what I'm saying? And good luck with that. But shout out to my man Rio. We'll get the gang back soon. But thank you, man, for always having me on. It's always a blessing to be on here. And I guess we get a break from stress tomorrow with no Washington game, so we get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, hopefully we can get Rio on in a couple weeks, and that'll be fun. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about tanking or finishing the year off strong, and then also we will be talking about kind of the quarterbacks from today: Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Sam Howell. All three of those quarterbacks played today. So yeah, we're gonna be mostly talking about that at the end of the stream, and kind of a bunch of random stuff. So if you guys have questions in the chat, we'll go ahead and answer those as well. But let's start off one. I know we're 2-6 right now, heading into the bye. We are playing the Bucks next week. I think it's Sunday night. I'm not sure, but how are you feeling about the team at the midway point in the season?
Yeah, so I think it's 1 p.m. It's 1 p.m. next week. What versus the Bucks, and I'm feeling like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the season's pretty much over. You know what I'm saying? However, I had us predicted to beat the Bucks before the season started. That was my upset of the year, and I'm still sticking to that. I'm picking us to win when I do my prediction video next week. Spoiler: I'm picking us to win. I know everyone's gonna say I'm tripping, but I'm sticking to my word. I say we were gonna win. In the prediction video, and I'm not gonna change on that. I really do think we're gonna win. Whether it's our only next win of the season, like last win of the season, I don't care. I still have us winning that game. But yeah, I'm like everybody else. I feel like the season's pretty much over. However, if we do find a way to beat Tampa Bay, I know you guys may think it's not likely. But if we find a way to beat Tampa Bay, maybe that could start off of a stretch where we actually could possibly make a playoff run. Because if you look at it, we're only 2 games out of the 7th seed, and again, that it's only week 9. You know what I'm saying? It's only week 9, but we're 2 games out of the 7th and 6th seed. You know what I'm saying? And the Eagles are 3-5. So if they continue to win and we continue to win, or if we start to win, those 2 games versus the Eagles could be crucial. I mean, those 2 games versus Dallas are crucial, but it really doesn't matter because they're winning the division. You can just give them the NFC East now. You know what I'm saying? But those games versus the Eagles could be really crucial because it could be for the 7th seed. It could be for the 6th seed. So again, I'm like everybody else. I pretty much think like the season's over. But I do have us beating Tampa Bay. That's my upset of the year. And if we find a way to do that, then I'm not buying back in. I still would think that the season's pretty much over, but that would raise my eyebrow.
Yeah, definitely. Let's shout some people out in the chat. What's up, One Life Music? What's up, Dave Quavitz? What's up, Samuel? What's up, Just Washington Football Team? What's up, Will Griff? Appreciate everyone for coming through. And for me, and what's up, Armin Brown? It's really disappointing because I feel like the last few weeks of the season, like the last few weeks, um, that we've played, I feel like the defense has stepped up. They haven't played like we thought they would, but they've played much, much better the last few weeks, and they haven't been the reason we lost, especially in the Broncos game and the Packers game as well. But just as the defense starts playing better, the offense starts struggling, and part of that is execution in the red zone, but a huge part of that is the injuries. I mean, you look at the offensive side of the ball. I mean, so many starters that projected starters are out. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Sam Cosmi, Logan Thomas, Brandon Sheriff, Chase Roulier was out. I know I'm missing someone. Curtis Samuel. Um, and Eric Flowers went down at the end of the game. I mean, so many players on the offense have gotten hurt, and that has definitely contributed to the struggle. And I mean, Logan Thomas, he's one of the probably top three, top four red zone threats at the tight end position in the NFL. And not having him there really, really hurts us in the red zone. And that's where we've really, really struggled the last few weeks, especially. And it's just unfortunate that just as the defense is putting things together, the offense is really struggling. And big part of that is injuries.
Yeah, and not only is a big part of it injuries, it's also like us not being able to capitalize in the red zone. We're it's the problem with this team is that we can't. It's not that we can't move the ball. Remember last year we couldn't move the ball for nothing, man. We will always go 3 and out, But this year it's not that we can't move the ball. We can't finish off drives. If we get in the red zone, we're kicking a field goal. If we get in the red zone, we're getting holding penalties that's backing us back, out of field goal range or making the field goal, much harder than what it should have been. And you know how the kicking situation is right now. Chris Blewett can't even kick the ball high enough. You know what I'm saying? His kicks are always low. So it's stuff like that where, you know what I'm saying, like we're beating ourselves, Washington should have beat Green Bay and should have beat the Denver Broncos.
And New Orleans too.
Yep, I know a lot of people don't like the word should have, but if you watch both of those games, Washington, they just didn't want to win. They just found a way to lose, and that's what bad teams do. And it's just like watching as a fan is so frustrating because you're like these guys should be winning these games. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being 2-6, this team should be 4-5 or 4-4. Like it's just crazy, man, because this team isn't as bad as our record says.
Yeah, definitely. What's up, Tyler? And yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate with these injuries, and then the quarterback play. I know people love Heineke, but there's some people still thinking Heineke is the answer, and I think most people can agree that he isn't the answer, and we need to find a long-term solution at the quarterback position this offseason. I don't want Heineke or really any quarterback on this roster right now to start games for us next year. I either want it to be, a veteran we trade for or a rookie quarterback because the quarterback of the future is not on this roster right now. And yeah, like you said earlier, I mean, we aren't totally out of the playoff picture, but at this point, it's just really hard to do. You're at 2-6, and I mean, you do play the NFC East 5 more times, which is a bonus. Cowboys, those 2 games are going to be tough, definitely going to be tough. You play the Eagles twice and the Giants once. And who knows? Maybe you can make a run and get to. I think if you get to 8 wins, that's when there's a chance you make the playoffs at the 7th wild card because the NFC or the NFC is kind of top heavy, but at this point it's just super super unlikely because that would mean they win like 6 out of their last 9 games, and even though Ron Rivera's teams are second half teams, it's just it's going to be really really hard to do. And yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, 6 out of the last 9. It does sound crazy. I don't know. I think 8 wins at minimum, maybe 9 to get that 7th seed. You know what I'm saying? And let's see, off the top of my head, I know we have Tampa, then we have Carolina, then we have Seattle, then I think we have the Raiders, and then it's that NFC East gauntlet. So it's very unlikely, but if we find a way to beat Tampa Bay, no other team on the schedule scares me. I think if we find a way to beat Tampa Bay, that's going to give us some momentum into the game against Carolina. I could very well see us, finding a way to, get that one for Ron. He's going back to Charlotte. And again, if we beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we could very well, turn the season around. But again, I think the season's over, but this game seriously, like like I know, like we said that last week was the last straw, but no, like this is seriously the last straw. If we lose this game, it's literally over. You know what I'm saying? You could say it's over now. We could say it's over now, as we've been saying. But if we lose Sunday or next Sunday, it's literally over. But if we find a way to win, we got some breath of fresh air because I don't know, Pedro could probably pull up the playoff picture for the NFC. Like I said, man, we're 2-6, but we're not out of it. I know it feels like we are, and we've been saying it we are, and it feels like the season's over. I've been saying the season's over because I just don't see how this team could do it. But mathematically and like in actuality, the season's not over if this team can find a win. You know, we'll find a way to win versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Sunday. So Sunday is a huge, huge game. You know what I'm saying? And we'll
Yeah.
see. But this team, I'm telling you, man, this team is not as bad as our record says, and we know that though.
Yeah, there's definitely winnable games on the schedule. The Panthers, they aren't great. I mean, they're not bad, but they're kind of a middle of the pack team, a little bit mediocre. You can beat them. The Seahawks, even with Russell Wilson, they'll be favored, but they're not world beaters. Like that's a possible win right there. And then obviously the rest of the NFC East games, you're gonna have to do really really good against the. You're gonna have to, if they want to make the playoffs, they're probably going to have to win 4 out of the 5 against the NFC East, which very, very, very hard to do. But if you win those, you 4 out of those 5, and then that puts you at 6 wins, and then you win the Panthers game at 7, and then one of the other 3 games, that's 8. But that's going to be really hard to do. But like you said, 3 of the games they lost really, really could have been wins for Washington. I mean, that Saints game, man, that was just terrible. The Hail Mary before the end of the half, the 75-yard touchdown that Landon Collins just had a busted coverage on that play, and then the red zone. I think Heineke threw a pick or two in the red zone. That game was miserable. And then the Packers game as well. They left so many points on the table in that game. Maybe they wouldn't have won, but it definitely should have been like a one-score game. Even if they lost, it should have been much, much closer. And then the Broncos game, we don't even got to talk about it. I mean, that was awful. One thing I want to talk about before we, talk about if we should tank or not. What do you think about bringing in Odell Beckham Jr.? Would you be a fan of it, or would you be a fan of it, or you don't care, or you are really against it?
Yeah, so I made a video on that. I said, sure, we should trade for Odell Beckham, but I could say that or not trade. We should sign Odell Beckham, but I could say that about 30 million other players. Yeah, we should sign Tom Brady. Yeah, we should sign, Aaron Rodgers. I could say that about anybody. But yeah, of course we should sign Odell. But will it happen? No, we don't. We're not. We're most likely not interested in Odell. Why would Odell want to come here? We're 2-6. Odell needs to go to a contender. Why would he want to go from Baker Mayfield to Taylor Heineke? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, of course we should sign Odell, but it's not happening. He doesn't want to come here, and we're not interested in Odell. You know what I'm saying? But we could dream Odell, Terry, and Curtis. What a duo would that be if when they are all healthy? That would be amazing with our young rookie quarterback. But come on now, like yes, Odell, we should sign Odell, but it's not happening. Although I will say this, we are on the list of teams that could waive him first. You know what I'm saying? That can get him off the list first, but it's not happening, guys. You know what I'm saying? We're
Here's the
Washington
thing.
fans.
Here's the thing. He doesn't really have a choice. If any team claims him, he has to play for them unless he just refuses to play at all, and that's just a whole different debacle. But if we sign him because we have the ability to sign him, we I think we're one of the, like you said, one of the few teams that have the cap space to do it, and we're the second team overall in the waiver order slash teams that can sign him. So the Jaguars are the first because they have a higher pick than or higher waiver order, and they can also pay for him, and then we're second. So I mean, I don't really care for Odell right now at this point. He's been battling with injuries, a ton the last couple years. And he just hasn't been super productive. And of course, that Baker and Odell really hasn't meshed together. I think 41% of the balls thrown to Odell by Baker were deemed uncatchable. So like you think about that real quick. Almost 50% of the balls thrown to Odell, he had zero chance to catch. That's insane. Like that is really, really bad. And they also just don't throw him too much. But he's got a little bit of that drama with him that he's going to bring to the table. We're 2-6 right now. Like we really don't need to be doing this right now. Like if we were like 4-4 coming into the bye, and Curtis was still out, hey, maybe I would do that. But at the point right now with Heineke at quarterback, and if Odell comes here, we know he's going to be complaining about Heineke. Like at least with like if Fitzpatrick was the quarterback, I think it would be a little bit different because there's been a ton of receivers that have, had career years with Fitzpatrick as their quarterback, or at least had really good years. Mike Evans, Devontae Parker, Eric Decker, Brandon Marshall. But because he's a gunslinger and he'll throw the ball deep a ton. Heineke, he's a little bit of a gunslinger, but it's a little bit different. Like he doesn't throw the ball deep too much. When he does, it's kind of when he's under pressure and he'll just throw a bomb up to Terry. But really at this point 2-6, I wouldn't go after Odell. I would be fine if they did it, but at this point it's probably not worth it. Maybe they can do it after the off season and go after Odell then if they do have their quarterback of the future. I see a team like maybe the Raiders. I know the Raiders is a possibility. Maybe I think the Seahawks would be a nice fit, but they don't have the cap space. So that's something right there. So, that's kind of the introduction. What's up, Tommy, Tommy T and Brian, OKG2000 OG in the chat. What do you think about the rest of the season? Do you think that we should tank, or do you think that we should ride the rest of the season out and, try to finish the season off strong? And real quick before you go, like whatever happens, I don't think we're gonna tank. Like I don't think that's gonna happen. Ron's not gonna tank. But who knows?
Yeah, so for me, no, I don't want to tank. I'm never a guy that wants to tank. You know what I'm saying? It's just not in me. I'm a competitive person. I always want to try to win. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to tank. I don't believe in losing on purpose. Now, if we lose just because we lose because we stink, so what? You know what I'm saying? But no, I'm not tanking on purpose. Like who wakes up, goes to practice all week and say, "Oh yeah, on game day, we're just gonna lay down, lose, and let the other team kick us around." No, you're gonna try to win every single time you get out there. And again, like I said, we're two games out of the 7th seed right now. Carolina is 4-4. If we beat Tampa Bay and go to Carolina next week, and they play the Patriots, who's playing some good ball this Sunday or tomorrow rather. So if Carolina loses tomorrow and they're 4-5 and we win versus Tampa Bay next week, we're 3-5 and we've got a showdown with them, and that's essentially for the 7th seed. Now again, it's a lot of football left. So we don't know what this is going to look like now, but I'm talking or later, but I'm talking as of right now. We're still in this thing. I know I don't want to sound too positive because I'm with everyone. We're thinking the season's over. I don't think see this team being able to bounce back, but again, it's not completely over. And yeah, I don't want to tank. Like why? I'm not a person that wants to tank, and this is the perfect year to not have to tank because none of these quarterbacks have separated themselves to be the legit number one overall pick. You know what I'm saying? There's no Trevor Lawrence. There's no Joe Burrow. There's no Kyler Murray. There's
Definitely.
none of that in this draft. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly think that Washington should not tank because they don't need to. You know what I'm saying? Let me look at the draft order as of right now.
We're 7th.
The projected draft order. Now I know we're 7. I was trying to look at the teams that's ahead of us. So look at this. We don't need to tank because again, like I said, none of the quarterbacks have projected or has separated themselves to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? So number one is Detroit. Yeah, that's a team that probably going to take one of these quarterbacks off the board. Houston's another team. Jacksonville has Trevor Lawrence. New York has Zach Wilson. Philadelphia has Jalen Hurts, and we're six right now, according to the ESPN. But we should be seven because we beat the Giants, because the Giants are seventh and we're sixth. But that's wrong. So we're seventh. The Giants, they have Daniel Jones, and then it's us. You know what I'm saying? So there's really only two threats ahead of us to take quarterbacks, and everybody else already has their quarterback. So we don't need to tank. We don't at all. But again, we don't know, because right now it's still week 9, so we don't know where this team's going to be at in a couple weeks. But nah, man, we shouldn't tank.
Yeah, and I'm with some of the other guys in the chat and with you, Awan, as well. I'd probably rather, get a veteran quarterback. But the thing is, if let's say you finish out the season 4-13, 5-12, like that is regression from year 1 of Ron to year 2 of Ron. The players are going to be way less bought in. They're going, he might lose the locker room a little bit, and that is not something you want, especially when like this defense right here, they're not going anywhere. Some of the guys we might not be able to resign, but these are your players for the future, and you might not have that many years with these guys. Obviously you'll have a couple more years with the core, but after that, you're gonna have to resign Sweat, Chase Young, Deron Payne, others on the defense. So if you take a huge step back this year, it's gonna be even harder. Yeah, like it's way harder to go from like 4 wins to 10 wins the next season than go from, like, let's say we end up with 7 wins to 10 wins. It's much easier to do that. And then, and also if we do want a veteran quarterback in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers is probably not going to come here anyways. He's definitely not going to come here if we finish the season 5-12. Same thing with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, if every thing gets cleared. Same thing with Russell Wilson. Even someone like Derek Carr, they're not going to want to come here if we finish the season 5-12. Let's say we finish the season off 7-10, or somehow 8-9. They'll be like, okay, they missed the playoffs by half a game, and they had terrible quarterback play the whole year. If I come in here, we can win 3+ more games, and maybe they do. Maybe they want to come here, but tanking, I'm just not a big fan of it. The only time I was a fan of it was when we ended up getting Chase Young, and was super happy about that. And he's been disappointing this year. Still happy we got him. But one thing I randomly thought about today is, if we lost, or if we won that game against the Giants, we probably end up with maybe Justin Herbert, because the Giants ended up with a 4th overall pick that year, and I know you guys are all going to be like, oh no, they would have gone Tua for sure. Well, John Keim and a couple other reporters, but John Keim, primarily, he's probably the most reliable Washington football team, not YouTube, Washington football team reporter. He said that they liked Herbert more than Tua, and if they were going to get a quarterback, obviously besides Burrow, it would have been Justin Herbert. And maybe at 4, if they aren't able to get Chase Young and 2 of the other guys they were going to get, maybe they would have gotten Justin Herbert. I know that this is like a way super out there, and just a hypothetical, but that's something interesting right there, that maybe if we uh actually win that game at the end of the season, we end up with Herbert. You just don't know what's going to happen. Having a top 5 pick doesn't mean anything really, unless you're able to, because the thing is, talent doesn't matter unless you can actually develop it and get it to that next level. Let's see, Chris says you're forgetting that Dwayne Haskins is on the roster during the time. There's no way Dan would allow Ron to move on from Haskins that quickly. The thing is, Dan gave all permission to Ron, and I know people are gonna laugh at that, but that's just the truth right there. And like they said, if Burrow was there, if somehow, the Bengals didn't draft Joe Burrow, they were gonna draft Joe Burrow at number 2 for sure. And why wouldn't you? Why would you not draft? Like, who cares what? Like at that point, what Haskins would become it wasn't what Burrow would be. And I think they definitely would have gotten Joe Burrow at 2. But kind of what I was saying, just because you have a top 10 pick, you have the 5th overall pick, doesn't mean that guy's going to be good. You have to be able to develop him. You have to be able to, get him to that next level. Sure, there's an increased chance, but that's just me right there. I mean, unless you have a guy, like you said, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Kyler Murray, guys, or Trevor Lawrence, guys that are definitely, number 1 overall picks, they're going to be good. That is different. But in this class, when there's, 5 potential guys that could go in the first round at this point, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell. I know I'm missing Strong. There's a bunch of guys. So, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I agree. Um, I want to see more out of Sam Howell. I'm gonna watch the highlights after this because I didn't see his game, but I'm intrigued with Sam Howell. I kind of just want a running quarterback, bro. I want a Lamar Jackson, and obviously nobody's like Lamar Jackson, but you see what I'm saying. Like, don't get me wrong, any good quarterback would be good for this franchise, but you just see how electrifying RG3 made this fan base, man. Like, I want a running quarterback. I want a guy that could just extend plays and just take over the game with his legs and arm. And I wonder who's the best guy coming out of the draft class at that. Is it Matt Corral? Honestly, watching Malik Willis today, he's actually, and I could be wrong because he got sacked so many times. He was never able to get into a groove, but he's slower than what I thought. Like, they didn't design many runs when I thought he was a read option kind of guy. I thought he was like a Lamar-esque kind of guy. Not talent-wise, not speed-wise, but I thought that was the kind of play style he was. But they had a few direct snaps for him, but he really didn't use his legs today. And he's I don't know, maybe it's just a bad game to watch, but I feel like he's slower than what I thought he was, And Matt Corral looked good using his legs too. But I want a guy, I want a running quarterback, man. But I don't think anybody in this draft is like that.
I mean, yeah, I would say the only quarterback that in the top 4 kind of the guys that is more of a pocket passer is definitely Kenny Pickett. But the other 3 guys, honestly, are pretty mobile. I would say Malik Willis, obviously the most mobile out of those guys, but Howell's a pretty good, runner. The broadcast was talking about it earlier, but you can definitely tell like he's good vertically, but once he has to kind of go out of the pocket, his lateral movements, Sam Howell aren't that good. But a rookie quarterback, I think a lot of people were hard on Ron this season in the draft when they're kind of like, oh, they were mad at him for not trading up for a quarterback this year. But I was kind of like, I was fine with them staying back because why are you going to trade up for a quarterback that you don't like, or you might like but you don't love? If you're trading up for a quarterback, you have to know you want him. You have to know you want him. And if Washington, they had to trade up probably inside the top 10 because they're not the Giants and Eagles aren't going to trade with Washington. So, the rookie quarterbacks really, besides Mac Jones this year, they've all kind of struggled, and obviously super, super early. Super early. They've got so much time to change, but so far they've kind of struggled a little bit. And I'm fine with, how Ron handled things, at least in terms of, the draft, waiting a little bit. And, maybe there's a quarterback they really, really like this year. And that's when you can trade up, just because let's say they finish the year off strong, they get the 13th overall pick, still not like great, but let's say they get 6-7 wins, and, get the 12th to 15th, 14th pick, maybe you can still trade up. Like, if you really like a guy, I'm all for it. Trade up for a guy, and that's what they can do if they want to.
Yeah, that's probably like my third scenario. Here's my ranking order. one, you straight up just draft a guy because it's gonna be there. Because again, like I said, there's not a guy yet that has separated itself in this draft. There's not just that dude. So you're gonna have opportunities to draft these guys. Two is get a veteran guy. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun. That's a pipe. All three of those are pipe dreams. But I'm just saying, of that caliber, veteran guy. My third one would be to trade up, but again, I don't know if we would have to, and only trade up if you love a guy. If you don't love a guy, then don't do it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's just wasting draft picks if you do that for the future, So only trade up if you love a guy. If you don't love a guy, then don't do it.
Yeah, definitely. And out of the veterans, who do you want? Out of let's say Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson, if he does get cleared, out of those three guys, considering everything, age, price, what it's gonna take to get him, out of those three guys, who do you want the most?
Yeah, so for me personally,
I think I know the answer to this.
I'm gonna be biased with this one. I want Russell Wilson. He's my favorite NFL player of all time. He's my favorite current NFL player. So I want Russell Wilson biasly. Again, I think that's not the most reasonable one though, because again, I don't see him leaving Seattle. If anything, out of all three of those guys, Deshaun Watson's the most likable one to leave his current team, but I don't think he's gonna come to Washington. I think he's gonna be going to Miami after this year. So for me, it's not going to happen. We know it's not going to happen, but it would be Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as you. I would go in my order. I would probably go Russell Wilson, then Deshaun Watson, and then Aaron Rodgers. I think Russell Wilson he's probably the best leader at the quarterback position in the NFL. He's him and Brady. I would probably put Brady on top of him in terms of leadership. But after that, he's probably second. He's a great leader, great guy. Still an elite quarterback. He's still one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And then this year, before this year, never missed a start. So he's reliable. He is still relatively young. I believe. What is it? 32 years old, around that. That's what he is. He's still 32 years old, turning 33 in a few weeks. But he's going to be able to play for you, for if you want to keep him around for probably 10 years. Probably 10 years because he takes care of his body. He's going to be around for a long time. He's a DMV. He's a Virginia native, and he's the perfect guy, and he's gonna be, he's gonna obviously, it's gonna cost a lot to get him. It's gonna cost a lot to get him. Probably 3 first-round picks, some other things as well. But you got to go all in if you want to have sustained success in the NFL. You got to get, you have to get a franchise quarterback. I mean, you look at the Bengals. I mean, they have an okay roster outside of Joe Burrow. They got some good players. I keep bringing this example up. They got some good players outside of Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is great. Boyd and Higgins are pretty good as well. They got okay offensive line. Their defense, Trey Hendrickson, Bates, and they got some other guys as well. But for the most part, the reason they're good is because Burrow is good. And, he's the reason their franchise has turned around. And, if you want sustained success, you got to get a quarterback. You're going to be, a team like Washington, if their defense turns it around eventually, they'll have, years, every few years where they're a dominant team. They're a pretty good team. They'll be able to win the division. But if you want to have sustained success, you got to get a franchise quarterback. And the only guaranteed franchise quarterbacks right now are those two guys, maybe Derek Carr that you can trade for. But if you go to the draft, it's a shot in the dark. It's not a huge chance that they're going to be a franchise QB.
Yeah, I honestly think the only way we get our franchise quarterback is if we draft a guy. I just think this free agent class, I read it to Rio, it is terrible.
Terrible.
You know what I'm saying? It's nobody good in that free agent class. And two, you have to trade for a guy, and I don't know how likely it is. You know what I'm saying? Again, I think just the most realistic option would be for us to draft a guy. I just don't see us being able to trade for somebody. I mean, as much as I would love it, I don't know.
Oh yeah, the free agent class is just miserable. Like it's awful. Like the best options out there are like Jameis Winston, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like sorry, but like none of those, like at best I would sign someone like Fitzpatrick or Winston to be like a bridge guy and draft the rookie quarterback at the same time so that you can still be, if the rookie isn't ready, you can still be competitive year one, but then after that you can let your franchise quarterback or your rookie quarterback ball out. But none of those guys at all interest me. I mean, it's really Big Ben, who's going to probably retire, Taysom Hill, Terod Taylor, a few other guys, but none of the free agent class, like you said, interests me at all.
Yeah, I'll do it. Let me see here. I know Rio, when I did it with Rio, he was like, oh man, stop. You know, it's like, it was just so bad. But the free agent, let me see if I can find it here. The free agent quarterback class is just so bad. Like, it is terrible. It goes Ben Roethlisberger, probably the best option, but we know he's probably going to hang it up if he doesn't get re signed with, you know, Pittsburgh. Then it goes Taysom Hill, then Ryan Fitzpatrick, then Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Joe Flacco, Mitchell Trubisky. It's just bad. Like, it's
None of the
terrible.
options are good.
You know what I'm saying? So
Like,
we're in a predicament where we just have to draft a guy.
like at best, those guys are bridge like quarterbacks. Like at best, you can sign one of those guys to be a bridge quarterback. Maybe he'll start for you for a year, but after that, I'm done with yeah, like that's the most I'll go, a bridge quarterback. None of those guys I would be comfortable with. Like if we somehow like if our quarterback room is like the same that it is right now, or like replace Fitzpatrick with like Marcus Mariota or Mitch Trubisky, that is going to be absolutely miserable because you have no upside there. Like I know some people might say, "Oh, Mariota will be good, Trubisky will be good." Maybe they will, but they've been in the league for a while, 4 or 5 years, and I much rather take my chances on a first round quarterback. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I mean, just yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, and I know a lot of people aren't gonna agree with me, but it's just like, if there's nobody in the free agent class, it's not likely that we draft a guy or trade for a guy. We have to draft the guy, and when we draft him and he's not ready, I'm rolling back with Taylor Heineke. Like, there's no other guys out there that's worth rolling with. That's gonna be successful. Maybe Fitzpatrick, but I think that may be the more realistic option only because he didn't get a chance to play his season here. That's if he comes back, he can hang it up. And 38 years old, hip flexors aren't really the best for 38-year-olds. They're not best for anybody, but obviously a young guy can heal faster than a 38-year-old. But if we're drafting our guy and we need a bridge, I would just go with Taylor Heineke. He knows the playbook. He knows the team. And he gives you a pretty solid chance to win when he's playing his game. And I don't think anybody on that free agent class that I named it are good, are better than Taylor Heineke. Maybe Tyrod Taylor, but again, how confident are you in Tyrod Taylor to win you games and take you to the playoffs? You know what I'm saying? Not saying Taylor Heineke can do it, but it's just like, I mean, I guess you would be doing better, but it's like, how much better would you be actually doing with Tyrod Taylor, James Winston, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, or Marcus Mariota? You know what I'm saying? It's just bad, man. We have to draft a guy, and I really hope this guy is the
I
man,
mean,
bro.
I disagree a little bit in terms of like I do think there are better options than Heineke. Like, unless he does turn around and have like a good rest of the season, like you can just tell with him. I mean, like he's just not a starting quarterback in this league. Like you can like see the limit, the limitations with him. I mean, it's just sometimes he just has no zip on it. He can't get the ball to the receiver. The receiver is wide open, and Taylor reads it fine, but when he throws it to him, it just it just floats there. It doesn't have, there's not the receiver is just waiting for it, and the DB will just break it up because it wasn't fast enough. So I would take Rod Taylor over him. Trubisky is kind of a weird one, but maybe him. Jameis Winston possibly, but he has his torn ACL. But there's a bunch of guys, or Ryan Fitzpatrick definitely. There's a bunch of guys that I would take over Heineke. I'm fine with Heineke as a backup, but I don't think I want him as a starter for us in the future.
It's tough, man, because like we love Heineke, man. Like it's hard not to like the guy. We all know he's not a starter, but again, for our bridge quarterback, like that's why honestly, I think Jamin Davis will pan out. I like the upside, but last year should have been the year we drafted a guy. Because if you look at last year's free agent class from the quarterback standpoint, I'm pretty sure that class was way much better than this one. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick, or actually, no, I take that back.
It was the same thing.
Yeah, I take that back now.
And then also, who are you like? Who would you want Washington to draft? Because at 19, really, they would have had to trade up if they wanted Justin Fields in the top 10, like 9 or 8 or 9 to get Justin Fields. Mac Jones is more realistic. That would be like 12 or 13, but there's a chance that, they called the teams to try to trade up into the top 15 ahead of the Patriots, but, the teams didn't want to trade. Like the Chargers, that was a possibility, but they saw Rashawn Slater there and they're like, no, we want this guy. There's nothing you can give us that will have us move out of this spot.
Yeah, and I take it back. The draft for the free agent class last year was actually worse than this year's. But yeah, 19. I honestly think like last year Last year was the year where we should have, if anything, and if it was possible. But again, I don't think they loved any guys on the draft board to do that. But I think last year, this is just my opinion. If I was in charge, if anything, I would have traded up last year, not this year, because again, I don't think you are going to need to trade up this year. But again, the guys right now, we don't know who's going to be good in April, but the guys right now that are in this draft class aren't, they weren't the same guys that were coming out last year or the year before that out of college. Joe Burrow, Kyler, Justin Fields, Justin Herbert. All these guys that came out last year and the year before, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, none of these guys in this draft class have that much hype as these guys. So again, it's tricky, but I like the Jamin Davis pick. I think the upside is phenomenal, but I think last year was your year to have to trade up because I don't know, man. I don't know how much I trust these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be tough. It's going to be tough. We'll see. And yeah, appreciate everyone in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button, like Armin Brown said, and Judah. Appreciate you guys for coming through. So we're going to talk about, a little bit of college football right now, just kind of quarterbacks that we like. So, you watch the game today, Ole Miss versus Liberty. How did what did you think of, Malik Willis and Matt Corral?
Yeah, so I watched the first half, and I told Pedro off air, like you could just clearly see, like, Malik Willis is not, and Liberty as a whole. I'm not just gonna put it on Malik Willis, but you could just see that Liberty as a whole is not good, and like really, really good. Like when you can see it honestly when they're playing real competition. Let me put it that way. Like they play real competition, you can see that they're not as good because they're used to playing. And I made a video on this today. I made a recap video on who was better for Washington based off of that game. So go check that out after the stream if you haven't already. And I basically was like, they're used to playing, UAB and Old Dominion and Syracuse and not nobody in the SEC. And you see what happened then. Like as bad, like he was bad today. Malik Willis was bad, but it was a bit of their whole team. Their offensive line couldn't block for nothing. And again, like I said, they're used to blocking less lesser, teams than the SEC. You're asking them to block 16 rank, off Ole Miss defensive linemen who actually set the, I don't want to say record, but had their highest, sacks in the season this year, which is 8. And I believe they got 8 today on Malik Willis. So it was just bad for him today. He didn't play that good, and his line didn't help him out at all. It seemed like he was on the ground or he was running for his life the whole game. I felt like he was holding on to the ball a little too long. It was plays where he scrambled out and evaded a sack where he could have just threw it out of bounds, and he just took the sack. I felt like it was some plays on the far sideline where he threw a pick where it just wasn't enough arm strength on it. And again, his draft stock is going to go super down today, based off of this game, and that could be a good for Washington, if they really like him. But you see, he has the what is it I'm looking for? Not the athleticism, but he has the physique, and he has the size, and he has I guess athleticism is the word I'm looking for. He has the physical traits to play in the NFL, but I don't know if he is going to be that guy that's going to be able to get it. He may be a guy that has to develop 3-4 years. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if Washington's in a position where they want to do that because, again, we need a quarterback now. We're starting for success. But out of these two guys, Matt Corral, he didn't play the best either, but he was way better than Malik Willis, and he had 324 yards for a touchdown. So, if anything, I think Malik Willis or Matt Corral would be the guy I would go with. But again, I don't know if we're going to be able to draft him or not. Before you answer, I wanted to who do you honestly think is going to be because I don't think there's going to be a number one overall. Well, actually, it may be because if the Lions going on this trajectory of not winning no games, they might be the first overall pick. So I take that back. They may most likely are going to take a quarterback with the first overall pick. So who do you think is going to be the first overall pick as of right now?
I think the first overall pick, honestly, will be Thibodeau out of Oregon. I think that everyone's saying he's the best prospect in this class by far, and there's no clear-cut, great quarterback. So I think that, the GM will be like, okay, Thibodeau is so much, further up my board that I have to take him, or they might, because Jared Goff is still under the books for over 20 million next year. So they in the next couple of years, so they still kind of have to stick with him. Maybe they'll get a quarterback at number 1 because I agree with you. They probably will have the number 1 overall pick. Maybe they trade down. But I think Thibodeau might be the number 1 overall pick. But if not, then I would say maybe Matt Corral. I'm not sure because, he's been good this year, but a lot of these guys, Corral and Pickett, they've really had, breakout years before those, this year they haven't been that good. So, maybe that's a situation. Sam Howell, not sure where he's going to go. Not sure where he's going to go, but maybe Matt Corral will be the top quarterback taken.
Yeah, so I just looked it up, just a mock draft on Pro Football Network, and they have the Lions selecting Matt Corral as the number 1 overall quarterback for or the number 1 overall draft pick for that matter, and then they have Thibodeau going 2 to Houston, and then they have us at 7 drafting Malik Willis. So again, I wouldn't be mad at the pick. I think he has talent, but you see his first true test at playing against real competition, he failed. And again, if you didn't watch it, it's not solely on him because his line it was not protecting him, man. And again, like I said, it's their fault. But again, they're not used to playing SEC talent. You know what I'm saying? Ole Miss is used to playing LSU, whether they win or not. They're used to playing LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M. I believe Texas is and I don't think Texas is in the is Texas in the Pac-12 or are they in the SEC? I think they're in the SEC. I could be wrong. But yeah, they're used to playing that talent. Even Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt is terrible, but they're in the SEC too. So they're used to playing those guys. So and Liberty isn't. They're not. So it was bad, but again, it was his first true test, and he kind of failed. But I mean, we'll see. Early mock draft has us drafting him, so we'll see.
Yeah. Texas Big 12, but I think there were rumors about them moving to SEC.
Okay, so I was right. Texas.
Yeah,
is Big
but
12.
let's see. So Well, yeah, Rattler is. There's no way he comes out this year. He's gonna transfer to another team because if like
Yeah,
he
he was bad, bro.
he's really
He's
bad. And Caleb Williams, he's looking really, really good. Obviously, it's gonna be a while, but he might be the number one overall pick in a few years. The way he's playing for Oklahoma. So we'll talk for a few more minutes, answer some questions in the chat. But like I agree with you. Talking earlier that I agree finishing strong instead of tanking. Like even though it might give us a higher chance of getting a quarterback to tank, I rather end the season off 7-10 instead of like 3-14, something like that. And then you can still trade up for the quarterback you want. That still can happen. You can trade for a veteran. That's more likely if you win. But tanking, finishing the season 3-14, man, that's just not for me. And one thing I forgot to talk about the whole stream, I didn't even make a video about it, but Montez Sweat with the broken jaw, super super unfortunate. Kind of mixed reports out there. Some people saying he's going to be out for 6 weeks. Some reports out there that's only, it could be 2 weeks. So, not sure what it is, but he's definitely going to be out for the Bucks game at least. Earliest he could come back is maybe after that game against the Panthers. But unfortunate injury for Montez Sweat. He's had a solid year, not an amazing year, but he's had a solid year for Washington. And hey, Chase Young he better step up. Like with Montez Sweat out, you have to step up because he has not had a great year this year at all. I mean, expectations. I had huge, huge expectations for him this year, and he's playing all right. He's playing good, but good is not enough. I mean, like we expected Chase Young to be great this year, and he only has 1.5 sacks. Like I predicted him to get like 12 sacks. 12 sacks this year. He's got 1.5. Sure, he's getting pressure. Sure, he's getting double teamed, but so are the best NFL edge rushers. And we picked him with the second overall pick. And, he just has not produced. I get that he's getting double teamed and his pass rush win rate is pretty good. But I need that to translate to sacks. Aaron Donald, I'm not necessarily comparing the two, but Aaron Donald gets triple teamed, double teamed all the time he gets to the quarterback. Myles Garrett, same thing. These elite edge rushers, teams have to double team them and chip them, but they find ways to get to the QB, and Chase Young hasn't done that this year.
yeah, and again, as much as we want to put it on Chase, I am going to hold him accountable because it is plays where like it's him. It could be the coaching, and I'm not talking
Oh
Ron Rivera,
yeah,
I'm not talking
Sam
Jack Del
Mills.
Rio. I'm talking Sam Mills. Sam Mills told us that he's watching Ryan Kerrigan film. I love RK. I love 9-1 to death. Washington, great Washington legend. Why are you showing Chase Young Ryan Kerrigan film? Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not putting it on Ron. I'm not putting it on Jack. I'm looking at Sam Mills the third, man. Um, Ron basically called him out on the media today, or not today, this week, and told him basically stop being selfish or, and trust his teammates and do it our way. And he hasn't produced this year, but it's a whole second half. I'm hoping that that play late in the Broncos game can ignite something and he can go on a tear and finish the season with about 10 sacks. And we'll see. But yeah, man, I'm not giving up on Chase at all. I still believe in him. But he hasn't had the season that we thought he was going to have following the Rookie of the Year winning season.
Yeah, for sure. I don't like Sam Mills. Like I don't care how well Chase Young does the rest of the year. I want him out. Like there's frustration within, like especially like Initis and John Allen. They when he came in early, they didn't like him, and they still probably don't like what he does for them, in terms of like the scheme that how he wants them to execute things, and especially if Chase Young ends the season, like let's say he finishes the year with 5.5 sacks, 6 sacks, I'm moving on from Sam Mills. Bring in someone else because the thing is, right now, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, especially Chase Young, they're relying on pure athleticism and not really pass rush moves. Like Chase Young doesn't really have that many pass rush moves. He's relying on his athleticism. And that's not, like, sure, you want Chase Young to be able to do it himself, but that's more on the coaching staff, especially Sam Mills. Like, you have to be able to develop some pass rush moves for him. Like, you have to help him with that, and he just hasn't done that. Chase Young really can only bull rush. He has some moves, but really it's the bull rush, and it's just like, come on, man! Like you have this, amazing talent. Like there's coaches that would die to be able to coach someone like Chase Young. Like literally, he's like a monster. Like everything you want in a DN coming out of college, super talented, super athletic, and he's handed to you to be able to develop him, and he just hasn't done it. Like that is on him. And obviously Chase Young needs to step up because even just purely based on athleticism, he should be playing better than he is right now. But Sam Mills has to be held accountable after this season.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. You know what I'm saying? I think, the guys love Jim Tom.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm trying to think, was Jim Tom gone after the 2019 season? Did Ron
yeah.
fire him? Or did,
Well,
okay.
He didn't fire him, but like they just moved on. Like they brought in a new coaching staff. I think his contract expired, and I think he wanted to. He really liked Jay, so he wanted to move on anyways.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, that makes more sense now. I'm trying to think what could is Jim Tom still in the league, but yeah, the guys love Jim Tom, man, and you could see they were getting like some backlash early and all that said, "Oh, we weren't coached that way." You know what I'm saying? We weren't coached like that. Jim Tom taught us a different way, and Sam Mills, it looked like apparently he was doing a good job last year. What happened? You know what I'm saying? Well, why are you not doing the things you were doing last year? And maybe he is. It's just maybe Chase and Montez aren't getting them. So I'm not putting it all on Sam Mills. I'm putting it on both. I think Sam Mills have a part in it. I think Chase and Montez has a part in it by not having a pass rush plan. But again, they don't have a pass rush plan because yeah, that's them. But how are you the coaches and you're continuing to watch the same thing over and over again without saying anything? You know what I'm saying? Why not put a pass rush plan together for them? Why not tell them swim move here, spin move, and then a rip through here? Something like that, a crossover, something to give them there. Not just stop straight speed rushing and bull rushing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's where the coaching comes into play because it's like you're watching these guys play every Sunday. You're sitting down watching film with these guys, and you continue to allow them to do the same thing over and over again. It doesn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, Ron brought in a bunch of his guys, and some of them, especially on the offensive side of the ball, like I really like Pete Hayner, John Matsko. Both of those guys have done a terrific job. But some of the other guys, like Steve Russ, I don't really like him as a linebacker coach. Sam Mills, like those guys got to be better. And if they aren't, then Ron has to seriously think about making some changes this off season, at least on the assistant coaches. Yeah, and real quick before we end the stream, we'll answer a few questions. So any questions you guys have, put them in the chat. While you guys are doing that, I'll talk about WinView. Make sure you guys check them out. I am, partnering with them for the rest of the season. They're the nation's leading sports predictor, allowing you to compete in pregame or live contests against other people and not the house. So you can have head-to-head contests, against your friends, family. You can do some free ones, or you can go ahead and put some money in as well. Answer 8 questions about each game before it begins, or play in quarter-long contests while you're watching the game to take your viewing experience to the next level. And new users have a great deal, a first-time deposit bonus of up to $200, and you can play your first $20 risk-free. And yeah, make sure you guys check them out. Link is in the description. I'll also put the link in the chat as well. But make sure you guys go ahead and check them out. Obviously, we're not doing the questions this week because Washington doesn't have a game. But yeah, make sure you guys check them out. So, anonymous person says, when are we going to start a different QB like let's see, like Allen or Shermer. Juan, what? Go ahead and answer that, and then I'll answer after you.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Um, they said Ryan Fitzpatrick it could be back, ready for Week 10. Don't know how likely that is. If he's not, if he's back, then he's getting the keys, obviously. But if he's not back, they're probably gonna roll with Heineke. You know what I'm saying? And if Fitz is out for the rest of the season, they're gonna roll with Heineke. I mean, and if the season is like literally over, like there's no mathematical way Washington can get in the playoffs, then you may see some Kyle Allen, but you're not seeing no Shermer, Pat Shermer at a second. Is it Pat Shermer the second? No, it's not. I know it's his son, but I don't think his name is actually
I
Pat
think it's
Shermer.
Kyle Shermer.
Yeah, I think it's like something Kyle, but Pat Shermer, Pat Shermer's son. Most likely no Kyle Allen. They're probably just gonna roll with Heineke, if anything. So nah, man, you're not gonna see no Kyle Allen or Pat Shermer's son.
I think we could see. I think we could see once Fitzpatrick is back. I think we will see Fitzpatrick. I definitely think Fitzpatrick will be the starter once he comes back, if he does, because that is a big if. I would say if Heineke continues to struggle, let's say 2 more games in a row, then that's when maybe Kyle Allen comes in. Just because you really don't want to lose the locker room. Like if Heineke's is playing terrible and you're somewhat in these games, but Heineke just blows them, then maybe that's when you turn to Kyle Allen for a game or two, see how he does. But I definitely think, though, Fitzpatrick, once he comes back, he is going to be the starter.
Yep, exactly, and that's if he comes back.
Yeah,
Like
if.
they said, he's projected to come back. I guess either after the Bucks game or for the Bucks game. I can't remember which one. Let me see. I think I have it pulled up here. I think they said he may be coming back after the Bucks game, but he could be back before for the Bucks game. Let me see.
I think it's going to be after. I think because he's getting an MRI. We'll see. Maybe he could play at the Bucks game, but I think it's going to be a week or two after at the most.
Yeah, I think most likely to me a week or two after. I'm trying to see what Redskin or football team fan page put it up, but I think it's either after the Bucks game or before the Bucks game. You know what I'm saying? And I think he's gonna get the job. You know what I'm saying? Why not? Uh, uh,
Yeah, see what he can do.
uh, I per se don't want that because I'm just ride with Heineke because I'm not a Fitz guy. I'm not a Fitz guy, but if they do it, what harm is it going to be? You know what I'm saying? Heineke had his chance and he blew it, and it's you're not getting no better with Fitz. You're getting the same. You're going to get the same thing with Heineke. I mean, with Fitz as you get with Heineke, touchdowns here, picks there, chances to win the game, and then you sell it away. You're getting the same thing. So it's not like if you go with either one, you're going to be better off. You're basically getting the same kind of guys.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Again, Juan, appreciate you coming through. Appreciate
Always.
everyone for coming through in the chat. And yeah, I think I'm gonna be doing I'll probably do a mock draft in the next few days, my first one of the year, and then it's on to next week against the Bucks. So appreciate
Yep.
everyone for coming through, and yeah, stay tuned for videos from both of us. Make sure you guys check out Juan, Great Washington Football Team YouTuber, Juan Gotti talking sports. Appreciate you coming on, Juan.
Thank you, man. As always, it's fun doing this. We've been doing this every single week, and it's a blast. And of course, we're right back at it. Come Sunday versus the Bucks next week. So, guys, let's enjoy tomorrow. I want everyone to have multiple games on. Because let's enjoy tomorrow, where we don't have to stress. We can just sit back and watch other teams all day. Make sure you got 4 to 5 games on. Turn on Red Zone. It's gonna be a good, relaxing day, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure, and like I said, appreciate everyone for coming through. Willie, Tyler, KO, appreciate all you guys for coming through. Peace, guys.
Peace.